Hey everyone, I'm Kirti Sharma and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm talking about Priyanka Chopra Jonas. Well, actually, I'm talking about her book, Unfinished. I love this title, guys, because as we know, we're always writing our story and there is no the end until, the end. Especially for someone like her who is like an uber celebrity. She's going out for global domination. There's no way that this book isn't encompass everything her life is about. And actually, a couple of days ago, she just made the announcement that she's opening up a restaurant in New York. So yeah, her story is definitely unfinished. One of my favorite parts of this book is actually the dedication, which is to her dad. Much like the title of this book, Your Story Was Unfinished. With that in mind, I dedicate the rest of mine to you. I love you, Dad. Like, how sweet and beautiful was that? As we know, her dad passed away from a battle with cancer, and she was really close to her dad. She even has a tattoo written in his handwriting, it turns out, and it says Daddy's Little Girl. I'm really close to my dad as well. I don't have a tattoo, but I can't even imagine how life would be without him, right? So a lot of this book talks about her family dynamics, how her parents were always supportive of her, believed in her dreams, pushed her in her career. It really talks about how by chance all of this happened. They came from a small town, they're from a military family, her parents were medical doctors within the military, and she was gonna be studying, either in the medical field or engineering, which she was more fond of, and her brother just happened to convince his mom to submit some of the pictures she had taken. From there, it's all history. She was Miss World in the year 2000. I actually remember that competition because I watched it. And I remember going to school the next day, and this guy in my class, he tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around and he was like, "Oh, guess what? This girl from India won Miss World. I bet you're happy." I'm sure he wasn't trying to be racist or whatever. I think he was just trying to initiate a conversation. Hey, I'm Indian. I guess I have to be happy if an Indian girl wins Miss World. That year, actually, Lara Dutta won Miss Universe, and Dia Mirza won Miss Asia Pacific. So there was a trio of Indian women on top of these pageants. And that hadn't been done since my favorite ever, Sushmita Sen, won Miss Universe, and Aishwarya Rai Bachchan won Miss World in the year 94. Anyways, back to Priyanka. This book contains a lot of personal anecdotes, which is obviously what a memoir is about. Now, is this book an example of the best professional writing? Obviously not. She's not a professional writer, and she's not trying to be in this book. She's just trying to tell you what her life is about. She gives us a sneak peek into, her wedding prep and how it was working alongside getting the wedding together. It talks a lot about the blending and mixing of cultures that obviously her marriage to Nick Jonas has brought. And I think that's awesome. I think it's really cool to adapt and learn about different cultures, especially if you're going to have a relationship with someone. You have to be able to respect both sides. And I think they are a perfect example of that. We've seen many pictures of Nick taking part in pujas and different customs, that, Indian life is a part of. So I think that's really good. One of the most identifiable aspects of this book for me was when she talked about being one of the only Indian people in her school when she moved to the US. For me, I've always been one of the only Indian people in my class, and forget class, even my school. It was me and my sister and maybe a handful of others. And by others, and I mean actually this whole segment. So it would be Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, all of us. And even if you counted all of them, it would be maybe 5 people in the entire school. I related a lot to that. Teenage years are really complicated and can be really nerve-wracking, You're trying to figure out who you are, where you belong, how you fit in. And then when you look all around you, there's no one that looks like you, So that can be nerve-wracking. I remember in high school for me, one day this girl I got transferred from another school, and we walked into class, and one of my friends was like, "Oh, look, you're twin," because there was another Indian person there. And till this day, we're friends, I'm friends with that girl. But yeah, so I definitely understood what she was talking about. And for her, it had to be even more difficult because she's not even from here, you know? Like, how crazy would it be to just upend your life from a different country and come and start, high school? I think that's crazy. It was hard enough when I had to move from Maryland to Virginia at the end of elementary school. I thought my world was going to end, So yeah, that has to be crazy. I think this book does a good job of kind of explaining how Indian people, our families are so enmeshed. We're so involved in each other's lives. Our aunts and uncles take care of us just as much as our parents do. Our cousins are not cousins, they're like siblings. So I think she does a lot of explaining in terms of how family dynamics are, how much we listen to our elders. Well, listen is an expectation. Now, I don't know, like I've never agreed with, you have to listen wholeheartedly and follow every single thing someone older than you says just because they're telling you to. I've always been someone who questions when something is wrong. And I think, she also mentioned something like that. Another thing she mentions is growing up outside of her home, like, being sent to boarding school. Like, I know a lot of people in India who've done something similar, and that really doesn't happen in America. Like, we don't really get sent off to boarding school for schooling. Can you imagine being sent away at such a young age? You're away from your parents, you're away from your siblings, you're away from everything and everyone you know, and you're at this school where you're having to adjust and learn and, in a different location. But I think for her, it served a purpose. It made her confident. It showed her that she can do things on her own and she can, venture out and not be afraid. So I think that was really good for her. And I think her moving to America during her high school years is also an example of that. If she hadn't been pushed into the boarding school in elementary years, she wouldn't have been able to do this high school journey either. So I think that was really fun. There was also a lot of talk in there about how strict Indian families are in terms of relationships and boyfriends and girlfriends. It's like a hard no, especially if, you are not the parent and you've been given the responsibility of looking over or taking care of your kid. So yeah, there's a lot of scrutiny there. So I understand that because I come from an equally strict family. So yeah, I think this is a really cool book. One of the things I really wanted to read in here was her relationships. Now, obviously, I'm like into this whole Bollywood gossip. She does briefly mention her relationships and how enmeshed she became, how her only goal was to kind of do everything she could for the relationship at the cost of becoming a little too involved and too much like energy going into it, which was a detriment, So she talked about that. And obviously a couple of her relationships have been really high profile in India. So we know who she's referring to when she doesn't say names. But I guess I really wanted, just a couple names in there. But I understand why she didn't do it. Everyone is in their own life. They're happy. Some are married. Some have kids, So she didn't need to dig all that up. So I understand why she didn't. Actually, I really thought in here that she would mention Priyanka Chopra, which is one of her famous cousins, who's also an actress in India. But her name, I don't think, was mentioned in this book at all, which I found surprising because I thought that the relationship was much closer than I guess it turned out to be. I think she was much closer to her mom's side of the family, just because their names are mentioned. And I think it was because she grew up with them, whereas she didn't grow up with her paternal side, I guess, because that's where Pariniti comes in. So I guess that was eye-opening. I just took them to be much closer than I guess they were at that time. I'm not talking about their current status in their relationship. I think, the book was a nice read. It's a really easy read. There's a lot of information in there, like her journey and just how it was, being a big star in India and then having to shift gears and come to America, how that was like, the racism she experienced, but also how open people were to work with her. So I think that was really cool. Full disclosure here, I was never really a fan of her. There was something about her that I didn't relate to, I didn't connect with. That's not to say that I didn't find that as the years went on, her acting became better. So I liked that. She talks about that actually, how her journey morphed and changed throughout the years, how the industry itself has changed, how it went from a patriarchy and a really like tight-knit community where they were wary of outsiders to being more open and like the women taking charge, opening production houses and, taking their careers in their own hands. So I think that's really cool. She talks about wanting to give opportunity to other people, so other people can have a chance. Other people from the outside can come and take part in this industry. 99% of us are not going to have this life and lifestyle that she's had. And obviously, this book is not going to give you a step-by-step on how to do that, but it does give you anecdotes that you can relate to and to figuring out who you are as a person. She talks about like her childhood, her teenage years, the struggles with that. One of the things that really stood out was the whole colorism thing, how a lot of people are not comfortable in the color of their skin. And that's because of the stereotypes that are out there that beauty is a certain skin type, or, oh, if only you were a little bit lighter, you would be prettier. And she got a lot of that. People make jokes. There's jokes out there with skin color, especially in Asian countries. I think there's a lot of emphasis put on skin color. And sadly, there's like a multi-million-dollar industry, out there of fairness creams and like bleaching skin. And I think that's so sad because skin color does not dictate beauty. But the problem is that it's so entrenched in our everyday life that people sadly equate beauty with skin tone. And Priyanka Chopra is one of is a pretty woman, and despite her skin tone, as you would have it, and which that's sad because, skin tone, like I said, doesn't define, beauty. So yeah, that kind of hit home because coming from an Asian culture and background, we see it all the time. It's really crazy. People in Asian cultures want to lighten their skin to look pretty, and then in Western cultures, you have people tanning to look prettier, so it's really weird how that happens. She also talked about her foray into promoting fairness creams because that was her first, I think, beauty product that she got to endorse. And then she realized that this messaging killed me as a kid. I had low self-esteem. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I was pretty. So why in the world would I endorse this kind of thing? So, she got out of it. She owned her mistake. So I think that's commendable, to be able to own your mistakes like that. She also talks about her nose job, which was a result of some kind of allergy situation. A surgery went wrong. She's had to have several surgeries after that in order to rectify the one mistake some surgeon made. And so I think that was pretty brave of her to talk about because people have been talking about her nose forever and she's never addressed it. But this book gave her the time and place to address issues like that. A lot of people say a lot of things about plastic surgery and Botox and facelifts and all that. And my simple thing is, if it makes you happy, if it's, something you're not forced into and something you've really considered long and hard, if you gotten your research done, the doctor that you're going to, you've done a background check on them. So it's not a scam. I think if you're smart about it, and if something that it's going to help you, your self-esteem maybe, then, I'm all for it. I don't think anyone else has a right to tell you what to and not to do with your body. So I think that's a good thing. And I think a lot of women have that thing in their heads, like, man, if I change this about me, this will be better. I don't know. It's a thin line, I guess. You shouldn't need to do anything just for another person's approval. But if it's something that'll satisfy you, then you should do, you should do whatever you want, basically, right? No one should be able to control you and tell you you can or can't do something. So anyways, guys, I think this book is a nice quick read. If you're a Priyanka Chopra fan, which I have really become in the last few years because, just representation and, what she's done for helping people, her UNICEF endeavors, her charity work, it's a really good story. So I think that's really nice to see. And like I said, I'm a big Indian movie fan. So, I have to read this. If you're not a fan of hers, I don't think you're going to go out of the way to, buy this book and read it. But if it does come across your way, you should definitely give it a chance because, it opens your eyes to a different perspective. And that's amazing, right? It's always good to step out of your bubble and, broaden your horizons. And this book lets you do that. So yeah, guys, that is my little review for this book. Have you read it? Are you planning on reading it? Let me know in the comments. See you next time. Bye.